23rd, 2020. Roll call, Marcia?
Commissioner Beeler,
Here.
Commissioner Greenfield,
Here.
Commissioner Lane, Commissioner McHenry. Corey, you're on mute. Commissioner McHenry?
Hey, wait, can you guys hear me?
Yeah.
Yes, now we can. Commissioner
Yeah,
McHenry, roll
okay.
call.
Yeah, roll call here. I'm having problems, but I'll figure it out.
Okay, Commissioner Weber,
Here.
President Mossberger.
Here. Can
Oh,
I
Walsh
get
is here too.
did you get that, Marcia? And Nikki's there?
Oh, yeah, I thought, okay, sorry.
No
Commissioner Welch, present. Okay.
Can I get a motion and a second to approve the agenda, please?
I move
So
to
moved.
approve the agenda.
Second, McHenry.
Okay,
Roll call, Marcia?
Commissioner Beeler,
Yes.
Commissioner Greenfield,
Yes.
Commissioner McHenry,
Yes.
Commissioner Walsh,
Yes.
Commissioner Weber,
Yes.
President Mossberger.
Yes. Statement of visitors. I can't see if anyone else is out there. Does anyone have the list? Is there a strange number we need to account for? No?
No, nobody.
All right. Moving on then to verbal communications. Staff? Anything other than what you guys had in the packet?
None for me.
No,
Not for me.
Anything else you want to highlight?
just the tier 3, you know, we're at pause with all the group programming. I think that, you know, needs to be mentioned. So that'd be gymnastics, currently dance, basketball. But John and I had a conversation too that we might do an open gym with Sign Up Genius to allow individual play at each of the baskets. So that was brought up by Commissioner McHenry. That was a really good idea, and staff's working on that. So hopefully before Thanksgiving, by Wednesday, we'll have something in place.
Great. Way to go, Corey.
Thanks.
All right. Sorry, scrolling through. Committee updates. Finance, I know you guys have had a few different meetings, and we're going to talk about the budget tonight. Anything outside of the budget that you wanted to highlight?
No, we had the meeting last week, and it focused on the year-end projections and the budget. So we're going to be going over all that.
Okay. Park and Beach Committee, we've got our meeting next Monday to focus on the beach. Anything with the parks that you want to update us on?
No.
All right. Facilities and programs. We met, what was it, Jim, last week or the week before?
It was a week before.
And the focus of that meeting was to support the finance committee by looking at a number of the different programs, really dive into the numbers and get a good understanding of what the plan is for next year. And Jim and his staff did a really nice job of doing just that. So felt that they've got a really good handle on, as good a handle as you can have right now and all this uncertainty, but they've got some good ideas on where they can increase participation, where they can possibly save some money, what programs they should maybe invest in versus others. So we came out of that meeting with a feeling that they've got a very good handle on where things are. So Paul, there really wasn't anything from a numbers standpoint that we were concerned about or felt that we should highlight for you guys.
Okay. Good.
Friends of Lake Bluff Parks. Jennifer, is that still you?
That's a good question. Can you see a picture of me at all up here?
Now we do.
I don't know what I did with my video feed. Is there a picture of me at all, or my partner or something?
I can see
You've dropped out and you've been replaced by Paul on my 9.
Thank you, Paul. My husband will be very surprised to see you at home tonight.
Poor replacement.
Okay, I have no idea what I did. I put it on pause for the video and I just can't.
Now you're up on my, I see you now. Yeah.
You see me in the video form or?
Live.
Okay, all right. First off, we're getting brick orders, which is really terrific. And thank you to Jeff Spillman and to Jim and to John, because we're getting everything coordinated for putting up signage in front of the lake, in front of the village. The village is promoting the bricks on the bluff. There's going to be a mailer that goes out. You may have gotten emails already, so that's really great. So hopefully we'll be promoting that. It's $125 for a brick, $250 for an 8x8. So hopefully you all have seen that and promote it between family and friends as the ultimate holiday gift for your children who don't want a brick in their stocking.
What's the end date on that? Is there one?
We're staying open on that
Okay.
because the installation is not going to be until the spring. So we're just going to promote it as much as we can over the holidays. But like the village, they had a hard stop date because they just wanted to stop taking orders. We're going to keep going as far as the friends are concerned. And then it sounded great. It looked like the playground for the preschool area was taken down and donated. I'm seeing lots of great nods, which is terrific.
Yep.
John, I'm sure, and Jim can join in, and Noah, as to the obtaining the new playground, but that's underway as well. So that's all good stuff.
Great. And I think there's some information in the board packet about that, but you're expecting the new equipment in what, 4 to 8 weeks or something like that?
Correct.
Yeah, okay, that's great. Nice to see some progress. Commissioner comments, anyone with anything else they'd like to add?
I have a question about the beach, and I don't know if this is a time to ask or if we want to do it later.
We can do it now or we can do it next Monday.
Well, I wanted clarification before next Monday.
Oh, sure, go ahead.
Because I'm confused, and George, I see you there as well, and Corey. I'm looking at the big plan, you know, the big book we got. And I'm confused about this project that we're talking about now, because I'm assuming on page 29, with the base option, they give the potential NSWRD cost components, and one of those is the 80-foot stone groin. Because there are two 80-foot projects. One is with the expanded base option, where there's also an 80-foot revetment buttress at the South Beach. So I was just wondering which one we're talking about here.
Paul, we are talking about the 80-foot revetment buttress that is part of the expanded base option.
Okay. All right, thank you. That's all. Appreciate it.
All right. And reminder, next Monday, we are going to meet at 6:30 to focus on the beach and to talk about approval of that project along with North Shore down there. So more to come on the beach. Sorry, let me get back to the agenda. Okay, President's report. I don't have anything to add. So moving on to minutes. If I could get a motion to approve both the minutes of October 26th and the minutes of November 2nd, please.
So moved.
Second, Walsh.
Roll call, Marcia.
Commissioner Beeler,
Yes.
Commissioner Greenfield,
Yes.
Commissioner McKendry, Corey? Corey's on mute.
Sorry, I'm having computer issues. Yes.
Okay, Commissioner Walsh,
Yes.
Commissioner Weber,
Yes.
President Mossberger.
Yes. Moving on to the consent agenda, starting on page 20. Did anyone see anything in there they'd like to ask a question on? The only thing I did not understand was the, and it might just be an accounting entry, but the roughly $5,800 going from the Park District to the Friends. Didn't make sense to me to see money going from us to the Friends.
People make donations to the Friends through the Park District, and then the money has to be transferred from the Park District to the Friends Foundation. So wasn't that like even was it the preschool donations that were collected for the preschool playground?
Yeah, it's even for the color run, not this time, but sometimes it might be the color run as well, or other events that goes back to the Friends. So we might take in the income, but then we take it and give it back to them, and vice versa. They send it back to us once we get a project going that they are going to be supportive of.
I didn't think of that, but that would also include any tuition that maybe was paid that they then decided to donate.
Yes, definitely include
Yep,
that.
that's correct.
Okay. All right, that's all I had in there. So if no one else has anything, if I could get a motion to approve the invoice schedule for the ACH payments for October, and then the invoice schedule for the period November 4th and 17th, please.
So move McKendry.
Second.
Roll call, please, Marcia.
Commissioner Bueller,
Yes.
Commissioner Greenfield,
Yes.
Commissioner McKendry,
Yes.
Commissioner Walsh. Commissioner Walsh,
Yes. Yes.
Commissioner-
Sorry, I was on mute.
that's okay. Commissioner Weber
Yes.
and President Mossberger.
Yes. All right, finance, page 33, the financial reports. Who wants to jump in here? Is that John?
Sure. Let me just flip to that page. So actually, I'll let Rich go ahead and jump in and just kind of update you with that information.
As you can see on page 35, we had a budget for the month of October of a negative 83,000. In reality, we had a gain of 366. The reason for that gain mainly is the way in which we're receiving taxes. Everyone will remember that the tax payments have been delayed this year. As such, it is skewing the both the monthly and the yearly budget. Excuse me. Year to date, our budget was 503, and we're right. We're actually sitting at $1,000,003. But again, that's a little bit misleading because we had an $899,000 bond payment, which then would lower that down into the 500s. And I will be happy to answer any questions anybody may have.
So if you back out the bond proceeds, we're running roughly $90,000 or $100,000 below budget?
That'd be correct.
Okay. Not as bad as I thought it would be. And we still have some tax receipts that should be coming in this month, right?
We received $100,000 already this month,
Wow.
and we should also receive some tax receipts next month as well, in the month of December. We are already over the 98%
Great.
rate, so we're doing. I think we're doing very well in the tax receipt area.
Okay. And Paul, where did we end up budgeting those for next year? At 97?
96, yeah.
96.
96.
Okay, so very conservative then, given what's going on this year.
Very conservative for what's going on this year. And when we get into the budget part, we can talk about that a little bit. But I think, it sounds like we're safe with the 96.
Okay. And forecasts for the rest of the year, that was back on page 34, right? 33 and 34. So the rec fund for the year, we're expecting to be 300,000 or so worse than budget.
Yes.
On this, okay,
337.
337. All right. Kind of is what it is.
And that, as Jim had mentioned earlier, that's going back to tier 3 now, which has been adjusted and resulted in additional losses that are included here, but it was like another 17,000 in losses, I think.
Yes, that's correct.
But it sounds like that may be offset by better than expected receipt experience on the taxes. So that may end up being a wash. Any further questions from anybody else or comments?
No.
All right.
Wait, I do have a question, and you guys have probably told me this before, but did we get money from the CARE Act in the first round, Rich?
So government funds, you mean, for?
Yeah.
No.
I mean, like all these companies got, so much money. Did we get any money?
No.
No. At the end of the board packet, I think there's something from John about applying for it. So
Yeah,
there's out there that hasn't been distributed yet.
That's correct. So that's the CARES Act. So what we have submitted for was a FEMA reimbursement, but this is the CARES Act. We've not yet. We have an ordinance on there that would be approved. We're asking for approval tonight. That was money that was distributed to the county, and then the county's distributing it to the municipalities. So, or the different entities. So the Park District has about 35,000 that it would qualify for in reimbursement in CARES Act fund. So we're working on submitting that now.
I actually had an additional question here on the golf as well. Has there been any revenue recognized from the golf course for the performance over the 800,000?
That's a great question, Paul. I saw that in the contract and sent Tim Miles Jr. an email last week asking for that information, and what they are basically what they're forecasting is that we'll probably receive an extra $20,000 in revenue based on how well it did this year.
That's great.
And that has not been included in the projections, correct?
Correct.
That is correct.
Yeah, I just got that on Friday.
Hey, Rich, I have I have a question. In the master capital fund, are we still sitting on the 350,000 for the Sunrise Beach grant?
Yes,
That was okay. So in reality, the budget that just got pushed forward to, I'm sorry, pushed back to 2021. So the
That is correct.
reality is the actual year-to-date budget is probably down, what, 350, 400? Right? Because if I'm looking at the budget of up 811, I'm looking at page 35. You take the bond proceeds out, right, and you take the 350 from the capital fund that we're due to spend this year.
That's correct.
Okay.
Yeah, but then you also have to take into consideration, and remember, we spent approximately 200,000 on the parking lots.
Yeah. So that would be what, down 100,
We're,
down
yeah,
another 150. So we're looking in the neighborhood of probably 250,000 under budget.
yes, that'd be
Okay. Okay.
close to correct, yes.
Yeah, because I just want to clarify what Chris said earlier. He was thinking down 100 for the year, and I just, that didn't seem quite right. That seemed a little optimistic. So
Yeah.
we'll get into it on like the budget summary
Yeah.
that you guys put together. But you can see there's a pretty precipitous drop between 2020 and 2021. So if people just start saying, oh my God, it's worse than we thought in 21, just but we have to keep that in mind.
Yeah, fair point. All right. Can I get a motion to accept the financial reports, please?
So moved.
And a
Second.
Thank you, Corey. Roll call, Marcia?
Commissioner Beeler,
Yes.
Commissioner Greenfield,
Yes.
Commissioner McHenry,
Yes.
Commissioner Walsh,
Yes.
Commissioner Weber,
Yes.
President Mossberger.
Yes. Can I get a motion to ratify the purchase cards expenses, please?
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. Roll call, Marcia?
Commissioner Beeler,
Yes.
Commissioner Greenfield,
Yes.
Commissioner McHenry,
Yes.
Commissioner Walsh,
Yes.
Commissioner Weber,
Yes.
President Mossberger.
Yes. Old business, the Beans agreement. I know you guys talked about this a lot last week. John, is our attorney comfortable with the changes that were made from the agreement that they approved last week?
He is now, yeah. We went back and forth and didn't change the language regarding the permanent easement and the putting a cap on the fees and instead of listing it as reasonable fees. But yes, he's comfortable with it now. Their attorney's comfortable with it now. So
Okay,
we think this is the final version.
great. So can I get a motion then to approve this new version of the Beans agreement?
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. Marcia, roll call, please.
Commissioner Beeler,
Yes.
Commissioner Greenfield,
Yes.
Commissioner McHenry,
Yes.
Commissioner Walsh,
Yes.
Commissioner Weber,
Yes.
President Mossberger.
Yes. Okay, so now let's dive into the budget. Page 65, let me get there. Okay, so starting on, I guess, page 66. So how do we want to do this? We want staff to lead it, or Paul, do you want to start off? What's your preference?
Well, I can start off. The committee, when we met last week, the committee asked staff to adjust the initial budget that they had come to us with in order to take into account, rather than going through stage 4 all next year. So the assumption originally was that we would be in stage 4 all next year. Given the recent really heavy COVID issues that are rising every day, we felt that the sensible thing was to assume stage 3, and we actually said stage 3 for the first half of the year, and then stage 4 for the second half of the year. And I noticed in the description, you went to stage 3 for 3 months, and then stage 4. There was some overlap because, as Jim explained, a number of the activities will be made outdoors, and those can be held even under stage 3 guidelines. So we wanted to have a more conservative budget. We all hope that there's going to be a really effective vaccine real soon, but realistically, that vaccine is not going to be widely available and really affecting us for quite a while. So we thought the best thing was to be conservative about it. And on page 69, you see the summary. And those last 2 columns, the first column was the original 2021 budget that was presented. The second column is taking into account this sliding back to stage 3, which does worsen the finances by about $40,000 for the year. We can go over the individual numbers. I think the idea was that tonight we present that we all look at that. If we have any initial questions or comments or changes we wanted staff to make, then we give them the opportunity to do so. And then at the December meeting, we can approve the budget and move forward on that basis.
Gotcha. So you just brought something up here that I had a question on. So in the original budget, you had the rec funds at roughly break even. It didn't get to the minus 37,000 until you applied tier 3 limitations. And that affected
limitations.
I'm sorry.
So I know the terminology is it's a little bit confusing, but we're talking about phase. So we were in phase 4, and we're talking about going back to phase 3. We are now in tier 3 mitigation order, and that's different than phase 3. So what we did was, we had budgeted originally for phase 4 for the entire year, which is what we've been under since July 1st until the tier 3 took effect last week. But after the finance committee, I believe the direction was to do the phase 3 for the first quarter, and then with the exception of the pool, we were going to extend or delay the pool opening until July 1st. And then we were returning to phase 4 for the rest of the year. So that's how we adjusted the budget numbers, which again, mostly affected recreation.
Right.
My recollection, Scott, I don't know what you recall. I thought we had said 6 months for stage 3.
Yeah, I honestly, I can't remember exactly what we did there, but just looking at the differences between what was sent out tonight and what was sent when we discussed last week, there's just a couple of changes that really drop it down. And the finance committee, we did our own work on it where we kind of broke it down into like phase 4, phase 5, phase 4 only, and then phase 3, phase 4. And the numbers that we came up with were, kind of somewhere in between that middle phase 4 and phase 3, phase 4. So like, for instance, our phase 4 rec budget numbers was plus 63, but the phase 3, phase 4 was minus 132. And so what we see here on page, I think 69 is, a minus 36 for the rec fund, which is kind of like right in between the two. And, Jim can speak to this. It's like when COVID initially hit, that was in Q1, and that kind of like Q1, Q2 window is the, kind of the soft revenue area for all the rec programming that goes on. So, you know, if we can kind of just manage our way through Q1 and Q2, then we can kind of open up the summer, and it's, you know, we know the fire drill at this point, right? So we can project out pretty confidently at least what the second half is going to be on a pessimistic scenario.
So I'll make a comment on it. As John indicated, the terminology gets really confusing. So from the finance committee, it was tasked of phase 3, but the changes I made were basically tier 3 in 3 major areas that affect today, that would affect Q1, and that would be dance, gymnastics, and basketball. Those are the 3 areas. During Q1, programming is on a light, but once we get into the same, it looks no different than it did in the fall. It will look different than it did last year in the spring, where we weren't able to do.
Jim, you're patching out a lot.
Look, it's my internet. I do apologize. I don't know what you had heard, but basically, once we get outdoors, nothing should change.
Yeah, and those are the numbers on page 86 that Jim's talking about. The youth athletics, the dance, even before after school. Those numbers, it looks like you guys revised down about 75,000 on the revenue side, but you also revised down some of the expenditures associated with that as well to, you know, kind of make up for that 40,000 difference that you see between the COVID and non-COVID budget.
And you guys are saying that preschool is not going to be affected by the tier 3?
No,
Okay.
we're allowed to run daycare or daycare type programs,
Yeah.
so that falls under that daycare type program.
Okay.
Yeah, just groups of 10 or less.
So help me with the terminology in terms of what you did here. So the 2021 COVID-19 budget, is that assuming tier 3 for the first quarter or phase 3 for the first quarter?
Tier 3. I took it even back, scaled it back a little further than phase 3. Because phase 3 and phase 4, I would have not changed any numbers off of the budget. Because we're operating at phase 3 even today. Yeah, so it was better I show you what a tier 3 mitigation would look like, because that's actually more restrictive than going back to phase 3. So.
And so then what budget are we going to be approving next month? We're not approving 2 budgets. Are we approving?
No, I think, I mean, the finance committee felt that the COVID budget is the one that we should be looking at in order to be conservative about this.
Okay.
And my only question to you, John and Jim, especially, I mean, just again, going over the budget, the general fund tends to look even better perhaps than it might, because tax revenues, which are by far the primary revenue source, don't really change. I mean, we're putting them at 96%, but there's no major change in tax revenues. Expenses have gone down. So we actually look a little bit better in the general fund than we normally would if we were not under the restrictions. Debt service fund, there's really nothing we can do about. That's legally mandated. The special rec fund, there's nothing we can do about. And the capital plan, obviously we can look at the capital planning and capital expenditures, and we have flexibility there. But the rec fund is really the fund that, you know, in a normal year, like what 2020 was supposed to be, we were looking at the rec fund to be a big money maker.
So in general, I agree with you, Paul, but looking at your page 69, your general fund net operating performance is going down from 2020 projected by almost $80,000. Yet tax receipts will be higher next year based on the cost of living increase that we just approved for the levy. Now, granted, you have 96% collection in here, not 100%, but you do have in that general fund certain expenses that are up as much as 15%.
Yes.
So expenses are up quite a bit in the general fund, or are planned to be up quite a bit next year in the general funds. So while in general, I agree with you that that fund should be a fairly steady performer, it's a drag of $80,000 next year on overall performance. At the same time that you have the rec fund continue to be a drag. So, and of course, next year is the year that we've got to pay out the contribution from the special rec fund to NSSRA. So a few things are hitting that are extraordinary expenses. So I just wanted to add those comments in that yes, in general, it's the rec fund that's the problem, but the way this is budgeted for next year, it's not just the rec fund. There are some drops in other areas too that are contributing to the overall pain.
Yeah, the biggest two with those is if, you know, the difference, a 1% difference in the tax revenue is roughly $18,000. So there's 36 grand of it there if you look at 96 versus 98. And the other is the finance and accounting specialist. We budgeted in 2021 for a higher expense than this year. So I think that's kind of the, you know, the two main culprits of that.
Yeah, certainly the 96% on the tax side, and we know we're being conservative there, so we should have better experience than what's budgeted.
Yeah, I don't mean to imply that there aren't issues in all the funds, because there are. But the primary issue is certainly with the rec fund, which is, you know, multiples greater in terms of the difference than what we would be looking at in the other funds. I mean, absolutely, the general fund gets hit. You know, it gets changed around, and but not to the extent that the rec fund did. So
it would be great to see, and I guess I'm talking to John and his staff now for this, but it would be great to see that $36,000 be break even. That may be a Herculean task at this point, but just philosophically, I don't like seeing the rec fund plan to be a negative. It may end up being a negative relative to budget given how the year is going to go, but it seems to me that we should be planning for that at worst to be break even.
See, and my concern for the rec fund isn't that the numbers, I mean, I wonder if, and to me, it's a when we slide back into phase 3 as things, because they do look, you know, we discussed this at the finance committee meeting. It does look like the COVID situation is getting a lot worse and is going to get a lot worse before it gets better. And my question is, while you can have things open, will people take advantage of those programs? Or will they say, you know, things are just too bad. I know I can go to the fitness club, but I'm not going to.
Yeah,
I know I can have my kids in preschool, but I don't want them there. And I don't know how we address that from a budget point of view, but you know, I question whether that $36,000 loss is will be enough.
I think there's a lot of parents, as many parents that may not be interested, there's equally the same amount that are, because I can just give you a little sampling of the business my daughter and her friends are running through the high school. They are being asked, I'm telling you, if the park district right now had 6, teenagers willing to give private basketball lessons, that they would be busy. Like there's opportunity out there, and there's clubs like Quest over by Pasquazi's that's growing right now. So the places that are willing to tweak the rules, or not tweak the rules, but to read the rules and to, figure out what they can do to fill their spaces at 25% capacity, they are making money, and there is money to be made. I know there is, because I'm hearing from parents begging me to have my daughter offer programming. So I know there's money to be made still.
I agree. I think there's just as many, if not more, parents that are in that boat that Corey's talking about. I think there's a lot of people that have, COVID fatigue, and they're, they've seen it, not like where it was kind of a big scary thing last year and people maybe didn't put their kids in camps or other things. I think people are less scared of it now. They're seeing, less scary outcomes. More people have had it. We've seen people go through it that have, had it easy. And I think people have less fear.
Yeah.
And I think, that from our perspective, Jim could probably tell you what he's hearing from his staff, but with our preschool parents, we're hearing from a lot of them that do want to bring their kids to class, that feel comfortable with the way we're operating and feel safe. And I think, day camp is going to be a good example of that, as well. And that's a program that does very well for us. So I feel as, we're hoping this vaccine, as it starts to get distributed, and we feel like a lot of people are going to be ready to, come back and do programs. It's, some of the programs, the fitness center, those, there's still kind of a question mark, but I think that from our perspective, we're expecting them to, those numbers to come back.
Just to give you an idea, preschool, we over the last 2 weeks, especially since the COVID cases have been going up, we lost 1 child, but we gained 3. So I think Corey's right. Commissioner McHenry and I even spoke earlier today, and she brought up these things that are going on in the community. I think there are some opportunities. I think that to Commissioner Greenfield, your question about the 36,000, I think that's extremely conservative. I think it's not gonna. I think it's gonna go better than 36,000. I think I did this based on tier 3 for Q1. It could stay that way, but there are going to be a lot of opportunities. I think we're going to end up seeing some of those numbers change.
That'd be great.
Yeah, we're all for that.
That'd be terrific.
Well, thank you to Paul and Scott and Noel and the rest of the finance committee for all the work you guys did, and staff as well. I know this is a huge effort every year. So Rich, thank you for your support. And I think we're close to having a finalized document. So we don't need to do anything with this. This is just discussion, right, John?
Correct.
Okay.
And we just wanted to, I think, finalize if this, the approach we're taking as far as the tier 3, and I think delaying the pool to open July 1st. And that's how, that was a recommendation from the finance committee. So we want to make sure that that's what we use to finalize the budget.
I think that's fine.
What's the reason for delaying it?
I think the delay, Paul, I think it was just the concern that if we were in phase 3, I think phase 3, the pool could not be open. Was that right, Jim? It was not until phase 4.
We only could do swim team and lessons. That was the only thing that was allowed in phase 3.
So
which
it
I
was
kept
pretty,
the revenue in there for lessons.
so again, it's being very, it's being conservative.
again, hopefully our experience will be better than that. So,
Absolutely. Absolutely. I have a question about the golf course. And as you know, I'm not one to criticize the golf course. It seems, looking at the budget, it seems like our cost of leased equipment is higher than our income from it. So the leased equipment is the carts, correct?
correct.
And it seems that we're losing about $10,000 a year on leasing the carts to Golf Vision, according to the budget. Maybe I missed something. I don't know.
I could address that. We have two leases. We have the cart lease, which is a completely reimbursable. The golf course is paying us, reimbursing us for exactly what we're paying to the bank for that lease. Then we have one other lease that's still on a piece of equipment, which is considered a capital lease for us. And I think there's like 18 months left on that lease.
Okay.
And it's our responsibility to pay that lease. It's on it's on actually a couple pieces of equipment that they're using. And the agreement when they took it over was that we would pay that lease.
And what happens when that lease is over then?
They continue to use the equipment that's there, and we still could have some responsibilities for any of the capital projects that we would have to do, but we should have no more responsibility for that.
Okay.
All right, thank you again, everybody. Item C, regular board and committee of the whole meeting dates. So, John, I saw that in the packet, and we moved the board meeting to the fourth Monday of the month, really to give staff more time to put information together for us. Quite honestly, the committee of the whole meeting, we maybe use 2 of those a year. So to change the board meeting around so that we don't have back-to-back board and committee of the whole meetings, I think is kind of a moot point, because what's happening this month is definitely the exception, not the rule. So if staff wants to keep the board meeting on the fourth Monday, because that helps you all to get your information together, then just leave that on the fourth Monday, and we'll deal with a back-to-back maybe twice a year when that comes up.
My understanding, was primarily the financial information, moving it to the fourth week. It was beneficial for, more complete reports. And I'd heard that those committee of the whole meetings were mostly canceled. So, it's really, it was just to create a schedule where they're not back to back, for the year, and then they can still be canceled, but it's up to the board what you'd like to do.
I say just leave it as it is. And unless someone has a dying need to have discussion about this, I would just leave it as it is and let's move on.
Well, you're saying leave it as the schedule is written out here, or leave it
as we're doing it right now. So probably not as, I don't have the schedule up in front of me, but just go back to the way we're doing it right now.
So have the committee of the whole the first Monday of every month?
Correct. All right. Anyone else have a strong desire to talk about those dates?
I think it kind of makes sense to spread them out. I mean, we cancel it anyway, we cancel it. But rather than have a board meeting and a committee of the whole meeting a week apart under normal circumstances, I don't know.
I don't have a strong opinion one way or another.
I don't either at all.
I'm sorry, Nikki.
No, I was just saying I don't either. I'm good either way.
Okay, well, again, not to create more work than is necessary. If you've already got the meeting dates done here and want us to just approve these, then let's approve them and move on. So do we need a motion from someone? Do you actually need an approval?
I don't think we need an approval for this. We just need we're looking for agreement from the board.
That's fine. Go ahead.
I think we may have to come back for, to finalize that with a motion in December, but not tonight.
Okay. Moving on, here's Corey's CARES Act. So you're looking for approval from us so that you can enter into an intergovernmental agreement. That's a tough word.
Correct.
Okay.
So we have two things there. The first one would be a motion to approve an ordinance authorizing us to enter the IGA. And then the second would be the motion for the IGA itself with Lake County.
And we can do both right now at the same time?
They would be separate motions, but yes, you could do them back to back.
Okay. And what's the likelihood that we might actually see some money?
We think it's pretty good. We've, yeah, we have, it will cover the FEMA funding will reimburse you up to 75%, and the CARES Act can actually be used to cover the 25% not covered by FEMA. And there's some additional equipment and other things that we're looking at. So we feel like we should be able to get some money back from this program.
What's the dollar amount that you're applying for?
We don't have that finalized yet. The max that we can apply for is about a little over 35,000. But we're actually having trouble getting to that point. So we're still putting it together.
That'd get the rec fund back to zero. It's perfect.
Does this give the county any kind of, you know, like, I don't know how to say it, but any, like it doesn't give them anything over us, right? Like it's purely just an aid thing. It's not saying, you know, if we sign into this intergovernmental agreement, which, you know, sounds scary on some levels, they have some kind of controlling interest, or like not a controlling interest, but where they would, I don't know, be able to give us more mitigations than are put out. You know, I don't know. There's no drawbacks, right?
The way the ordinance is written is limited. So no, it's only pertaining to this particular thing. So no, it's not.
Okay.
There's nothing that they could claw into or back from that.
Got it. I don't like anything intergovernmental. That's why I wanted to ask.
Nor do I.
Hey, John, how does this work? So the way I understand it, the federal government gives Lake County money, and then Lake County parcels that to the communities based upon their application.
That's correct. And actually, they've already received the money
Right.
from the federal government. So now it's just a matter of the different agencies requesting their own reimbursement of those funds.
Gotcha.
Yeah, isn't this Sandy Hart that we're sending this to? Isn't it county board that decides? Or, I mean, I think we should get it. I think you should put in for the max for sure.
That's what we're trying to, yeah, we're trying to get everything that we can qualify for. But again, it's difficult to reach those numbers. You have to, but we're looking at, some of the possible payroll that would qualify, or the PPE, or signage, or, a lot of different things that we're trying to get in and help us get up, as much as we can back.
John, just so you know, Sandy Hart is the county board president. She's a Lake Bluff resident, and she was on the board. We were on the board together at the Park District.
Oh, is that right?
She's a big Park District supporter. So this should be, I'm not going to call it a slam dunk, but if there's money, I could see Sandy. I mean, she'd love to support her own community.
That's great.
Stop being partisan.
Hmm.
If there's money left.
Yeah. All right, so we need a motion to approve the ordinance, please. Do you need someone to read something exactly, John, or?
There is, we did list a motion that could be read there on the memo. That's page 119.
I'll do it. I move to approve the ordinance 2020F, an ordinance authorizing an intergovernmental agreement between the Lake Bluff Park District and the County of Lake regarding the CARES Act funds.
So I'll move, but do you need the second part too?
I think that's the second motion.
Oh, we can't do those together. All right, so moved for the first one.
Second.
Great. Roll call, Marcia?
Commissioner Beeler,
Yes.
Commissioner Greenfield,
Yes.
Commissioner McHenry,
Yes.
Commissioner Walsh,
Yes.
Commissioner Weber,
Yes.
President Musburger.
Yes. So now we need a second motion to approve the intergovernmental agreement, please.
I move to approve the intergovernmental agreement COVID-19 relief fund between the Lake Bluff Park District and the County of Lake.
Second.
Great. Marcia, roll call, please.
Commissioner Beeler,
Yes.
Commissioner Greenfield,
Yes.
Commissioner McHenry,
Yes.
Commissioner Walsh,
Yes.
Commissioner Weber,
Yes.
President Musburger.
Yes. Okay, and then the last new business item, Friends of Lake Bluff Parks trustee. So Jennifer is here. Is this where officially you can be replaced? Is that what's going on here?
No, she would stay as, this was talking about staff. So normally, one of the staff was on as a trustee, and then Commissioner Beeler would still remain as in her position. I think she's a liaison to the board.
And the liaison.
So have you guys all nominated Noah, or where does this stand right?
Yeah, he didn't know that until just now.
Uh-huh.
Thanks for the surprise.
Yeah. Who are you recommending?
It's whoever the board is comfortable with. In the past, it's been Ron, and when and Jim is really the alternate. So Jim's filled in quite a bit, and then Ron, after Ron left, Jim was it and did a good job doing that. But I'm also fine with with being that person if you want to continue on with having the director be the trustee for the foundation.
Well, let me speak for the board, and the board can disagree if they'd like, but I would be comfortable with Jim, Noah, or John being the trustee and representative from staff. So from my standpoint, you guys decide which of the three of you has a desire to do it, time to do it, and makes sense to do it given your other assignments. So does the rest of the board feel the same way?
Totally.
Yes,
Okay.
that sounds great.
Totally. Unless Jennifer, I mean, if you think that they prefer to work with the executive director because they feel a little more of a connection, but I'd leave it up to what Chris said, unless you have a strong opinion, Jennifer.
Yeah, I'll just echo what John said. It had traditionally been Ron, and I know Jim had always been a vital part of it too. When Ron was no longer part of the park district, Jim stepped up into the role well, but it's a time commitment as well. So whoever feels that they're a good way to relay the information would be the best way to do it.
Yeah, I mean, I personally, now that I'm thinking out loud, I think, John, you should do it because I think it's a great opportunity for you to get to know more community members and get a connection. I mean, Jim has an amazing connection with a lot of the community because of everything he's done. I think it would be a nice opportunity for you to get to know some more volunteers.
I would agree with that.
And I'm fine with it. I think if we keep Jim on as the alternate and keep him involved, he has a good background in fundraising and has a lot of good ideas. So, but you're right. I think I would meet, a lot more from the community. So I'm fine with that if that's the direction of the board.
Sounds good. And that's discussion only, right? We're not, okay,
Right.
Gotcha. Written communications, anything that you guys have? I don't have anything.
I don't have anything.
Okay. Sorry to go backwards, but one thing, John, on the projections, the capital plan, I had mentioned to you before that we as a board had never approved the 5-year capital plan. So these numbers seem to have just kind of been entered in now to the budget and they get voted on every year, but we've never had a comprehensive discussion, and we've asked as a board numerous times for staff to prioritize items. And I know, Jim and Noah and others, you guys have spent some time doing that, but when I look at the budget for next year and it includes some items like $40,000 for paddle, I've got a hard time saying that we should be spending $40,000 on something for paddle right now, given everything else that's going on. And I don't mean to pick on paddle. There were other numbers in there too. So I just want you to know from a capital perspective, that stuff that you see down there for 2021, 2, 3, and 4, that's not written in stone. Those were meant to be discussed. And we haven't had a discussion about 2021 capital expenditures. So from my perspective, those need to be at a minimum. Again, given all the uncertainty right now. If it's $40,000 are in there because the heaters have gone and we need to buy a new heater, I get it. But if it's $40,000 in there because it'd be nice to do some resurfacing or it'd be nice to do something else, I don't think we need to be spending that money. So we just need to find a time to have a discussion about that, I guess.
I agree with that, Chris. And staff have met today to talk about capital. It's going to be, that's going to be kind of there's the 5-year, there's then there's the 6 to 10 year plan, and there's the, up to 15 year, and it has a lot of detail and, just an incredible amount of detail. Actually, it's very lengthy and time consuming. We met today to just start talking about that and we feel like that's probably going to need to be a separate meeting just to talk about, a capital plan and with the board and then, go through and prioritize these items. So for the most part, we weren't making many changes and trying to go pretty conservative for next year. I think with that paddle, as Jim may have, I think, explained it to me, that there's the players are paying a capital fee that are going to help offset at least part of that. fee, but we agree that I think this needs to be a larger discussion with the board, but probably a separate discussion because there's going to be quite a bit of information to cover.
Yeah, agreed. And that's right, Jim. Are they covering that whole 40 over like 3 years, or what's the?
Well, it's a conversation I think we need to have with some of the main paddle association folks, but they're on board. You know, the heaters that we have now are those torpedo heaters below the deck, like you would see it at a football game. They're not efficient, and when they break down, it's not cost effective. A large part of that cost is the installation, because you have to right, Noah, it all has to be repiped. So
Right.
But to answer your question, would be yes, that capital fee should pay for that. And right now, it all depends how many members we have. I think there's like 13,000 that we're expecting this season.
And Jim, that's not an annual. That is an annual. They'll pay that every year. That's not a one-time fee. They'll keep paying.
So it's roughly a 3-year build to get the money needed to pay for that.
That's correct. Yeah.
Okay.
Now, while we open this up, I had a question, if I can. Because at the Finance Committee meeting, this issue of if you see right now in fiscal year 2022, there's $100,000 for the pool. And that is, Noah, to replace the liner?
No, excuse me, Paul. I researched that further. That capital money is to do deck repairs and lighting repairs. I thought that was the pool liner, but that's actually slated for deck repairs and lighting repairs around the deck, around the pool itself.
Because you put $12,000 in the pool budget, I think, for liner repair.
Well,
Handwritten in the.
Yeah, that was to make the increase under contractual to make a repair.
Yeah.
So this does not include the liner. The liner is only about 4 or 5 years old. It was done more recently. So we're looking at repairing the liner, and that cost was, it should be about $3,000 or $4,000, possibly up to $5,000, make that repair on the liner. So this change that was made at the Finance Committee meeting the other night, we switched the two. So that originally was in 23, and then the 53,000 for the pathway, that was in 22. We switched those as of the discussion that night, but we didn't have quite all of the correct information. So given that information, we would recommend switching those back.
Yeah.
And putting that 100,000 back in 23.
Okay. Now, is anything in there to fix that leak that you have under the pool, or is that way down the road when?
Boy, that's going to be a bigger discussion if we tear up the deck. I mean, that was part of the conversation we even had today. If we start tearing up the deck, is that going to make it worse? Is it, what's going to happen with that leak, right, Noah?
Yeah, and that 100,000 is a number that's a little stale, I'll say. I think it's one of those things when you start tearing into the deck to repair that line, and you could open up a can of worms. Essentially, is what it could be. So we're optimistic as we always are, but I'm also a realist and understand that projects like this, where you're exploring just like you would at your house if you're trying to find a problem, it can easily lead to more expenses. So I don't know what.
Okay, so
I don't want to sugarcoat it. I'm not going to sugarcoat it.
So that's a number that needs to be refined, in other words.
Mm-hmm.
That needs to be updated.
Okay.
All right. Anybody have anything else? If not, we can sign off, and we'll see everybody next week for the beach discussion. John, you've got something?
Yeah, Chris, I just really quickly wanted to say that I didn't know if there were any questions about the Blair Park tennis courts. I know that this has been discussed in the past, and we moved that up. We put 20,000 in for This is not a large scale repair, but should extend the life and fix some unsafe conditions and make them a little bit safer to use and extend the life for 3 or 4 years. And so we put that in, and we just wanted to make sure that the board's comfortable with us leaving that in as we work on finalizing the budget.
So I think that also, begs some questions. We spent a bunch of money to get the courts all set up over at Artesian, and then, there's Corey, our tennis stud. But I'm going to say this anyway. I don't know that we need to be spending any more money on tennis. However, we had spent a lot of time talking about converting those courts to pickle, or at least having them be, combo courts, and that the resurfacing dollars might make sense if it enabled us to expand our pickle program and potentially capture more revenue that way. So I haven't, and Jim, correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't remember anything recently coming through the committee that talked about, expanding that pickle program. I know that we brought it in-house. We don't have the jam people running it anymore, but I don't know what that means in terms of if we spend this money so that now we can have pickle outside, what does that mean in terms of an offset on the revenue side?
I think more importantly, you have to include the tennis conversation, because about 90% of our tennis revenue comes through Blair Park, not Artesian. That comes from our youth program that we bring over the elementary kids over to Blair Park. So that's a big portion of our revenue. This year, we're anticipating an $18,000 net gain in tennis. And for 2021, I think we have a great opportunity to bring in some of that back over again, because our numbers continue to increase with the tennis, because it's one of the outdoor sports during COVID that kids are getting attracted to. I think Corey, I've had conversations with her. It's becoming really popular again. So you got to have both conversations with the pickle as well as with the youth tennis, only because of that intro program that we bring over here.
Yeah, I was wrong then. I thought that all that stuff was happening over at Artesian. So,
yeah. And the
Yeah.
plan
We also
was to make those combo courts so that they can still be used for both pickleball and tennis. The 2 tennis courts or 4 pickleball courts.
So that seems to me like that's, both of those programs, as they relate to the dollars that you're looking to spend, that's something perfect for a committee meeting for for Emily's committee. So why don't we plan something early in December, so that we can talk about that before you guys finalize the budget?
Wait, I'm sorry, John, will you repeat that comment you made about did you say you were going to paint the pickleball on the Blair ones or Artesian?
Blair. This
Oh,
would be resurfacing Blair and not resurfacing, but fixing the cracks and doing some repairs, and then striping it for both tennis and pickleball here just at Blair.
yeah, I think that's a good idea. And I would definitely have them, South Park and Lake Forest just completed them shortly, not too long ago, and they did a really good job. And they're getting a lot of use. So maybe whoever paints them, they can just check them out to see how they did it, because I thought they did a pretty good job.
Okay. Yeah, we feel that that's one of the, going forward, it's going to be one of the safe, activities, outdoor pickleball as well as, tennis. So, for us to do something, that could, that could be a benefit, given this environment, of another safe outdoor activity, would like to, consider offering that. And I think, and Jim can consider, can talk about this with the committee, but he and I talked about, what those programs, both pickleball and the youth tennis instruction, would bring in, and what the net is, and how that would help pay for this.
Yeah.
And I agree with, Jim brought up, I think tennis is definitely hot right now. Well, obviously there's a little pause here with the cold coming, but when you can play, I think it's going to be very well received. And we've always kind of said when we've discussed the courts that Artesian is the #1 priority in terms of the tennis courts. So we kind of put the Blair courts on the back burner. But I do agree with Jim, you know, we do bring those kids over from the elementary and the cracks are getting pretty big. So if we could fix them, so we could continue that programming and advance the pickleball, I think that would be really smart. My opinion.
Yeah, well, it's a valued opinion. So,
As I'm sitting here with my torn meniscus.
oh no,
Yeah.
you and Joe Burrow.
Yeah, it was 3 days. It was paddle, pickle, and tennis, and then it was over.
Oh no.
Yeah. So,
So Jim, if you could check in with Emily, and again, we'll get something set up early in December.
Sounds good.
Great. All right, thank you, everybody. So we need a motion to adjourn.
so moved.
A second.
Second.
Roll call, please, Marcia.
Commissioner Beeler,
Yes.
Commissioner Greenfield,
Yes.
Commissioner McKendry,
Yes.
Commissioner Walsh,
Yes.
Commissioner Weber,
Yes.
President Mossberger.
Yes.